Good morning YouTube and the internets. The Falcons registered. I'm home on R&R and I'm just about to prep the race car to run at Lakeside on Saturday. I've got in my hand 22 litres of fresh corn juice, freshly squeezed from the servo. Pop that down here. Let's go get the race car started after I pump out the old fuel and give her a clean up because she's filthy. Let's have a look in here. Oh yeah, it's got shit all over it. Not good. Not good. Excuse me, coming through. Sorry, lizard. God, this place is a mess. Good morning, beautiful. How are you? Dirty. Yes, very dirty. Alright, first things first. Got to get the fuel line off the fuel rail on the front here. Then I trick the relay in the boot, thinking it's running, pump all the fuel out through the line. So here's the fuel pump relay, and the B2, we'll pop that off the bracket, put you down. Yeah, you probably can't see it. Excellent. So that's the relay, we'll pull that aside, and we just need to pin two of these together, and I can't remember which two, to make the fuel pump think that it's running, that the engine's running, and it'll just continuously pump fuel without the engine running. Let's do that. So we've got power, we've got the kill switch on, keys in ignition, relay out, and kill switch for the battery on. Now if we turn it on, it should pump fuel and prime. Oh, we shouldn't hear fuel pumping because the relay's disconnected, you idiot. Anyway, we've got power, so prod a couple of these. Nope. That's it there. So those two, you should be able to hear that. That's the fuel pump pumping. So leave that there, I'll go take the line off. So I like to stuff this cavity with some rags, I've already cracked it, and that's why. Fuel coming out of the rail. And in theory, I should be able to straight in that 3/4 inch tube, and it was a fairly good fit last time. Get that up nice and high. I'll zip tie it in place so it doesn't leak out the top, and it'll run out the bottom here into a waiting container. Okay, fuel line into hose, hose into jerry can, power on. Ignition on. Is it too dark to see? Let's hope so. Turn on the pump. Fuel pissing out into here. This fuel's quite old, so I don't want to run it in the car. There's a good chunk in there though. I think it's like half a tank. What do we got? Yeah, half a tank. So to probably fill that jerry can, might have to stop it at some point and empty that jerry can out somewhere. But yeah, for now I'll just let it drain and come back in a few minutes. I will stay here and watch it because I don't want the pump to run dry, because the fuel is what lubricates and cools the pump as well. So we'll get that done and then we'll get this thing fired up, warmed up, and start getting it ready for track work, which means I need to put the front bar back on. There's a mounting bracket underneath the intercooler that's part of the front bar assembly. I've got to find that. That hasn't been on the car in a couple of years since I started rebuilding it. So yeah, there's a few things to do before I go and do a proper track day at Lakeside. Now the tyres are shot. They're the same ones I ran in Japnats 3 years ago, 2 years ago, some years ago. So they're going to be well past their expiry date, so I'm not expecting to go very fast. Still running the 14 PSI tune effectively. Well, not effectively, actually. But yeah, it's once I do this run at Lakeside, I'll be taking it back to the dyno for full power run. Now it might be limited on fuel, I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll just see what it can do as it is, and then if need be I'll upgrade the fuel system, and I might upgrade the coils for some Audi R8 coils before I take it back for a touch up for the fuel system. So we'll see what happens, but I expect it to make plenty of power when I do that. But first I've got to get at the track, make sure it's not going to break, and get a little bit of wheel time as well before I go and take on the Gold Rush Hill Sprint in Rockhampton, which is an amazing piece of road. And if you look back in my channel, you'll see I drove it, and it was so good I had to like film it because it was such an amazing piece of road. I was in a piece of shit and I was stuck in traffic, but it's an amazing piece of road, and I was thinking, shit, this is making an amazing hill climb. 6 months later I started running a hill climb there, so looking forward to that. It's a long way to go. It's a full day's drive just to get there. I'll have to tow this, that's why the Falcon is important, but also I needed it ready for this weekend so I could take the car to Lakeside to facilitate all this. I was going to do a Falcon video for the front suspension because it failed rego on the bump stops, effectively not existing anymore, which they didn't. And I nearly killed myself with the bloody spring compressors, and yeah, I just could not compress them enough to get them on the new shocks, so ended up having to take it to the shop. So I can't do a how-to video when I failed to do it. So that's all gone in the bin, that footage, and yeah, point this away from myself, because if it lets go, a lot's going to happen very fast. Taking care to not have my fingers or face anywhere near this. Woo! So much for the spring compressor being the safe option. Battery is flat. So you can see that is actually beyond the maximum reach of the compressor. Let's see what happens here. I'm expecting that to go flying. Undo, come on. Woohoo! It's about to pop off. Fuck me. Oh! fucking long. I've never had this much trouble with this job. Well, YouTube and the internet, today is my first absolute failure. I cannot get these springs to compress. Not far enough to get them over the struts, and if I go any longer with the compressors, the coils are too tight a radius and the compressors start coming off. I've had them fly off a couple of times. It's sketchy as fuck. So I've pulled the pin, I've called a mechanic, mate of a mate, and I'm going to run the shocks down and pay, I don't know, 50, 100 bucks, and get them to compress the springs and get them on that new shock. Don't forget, the whole reason I was doing it in the first place was the bump stops. I'll give you this instead. Get this thing ready, and I'll cut away now and stop rambling. So, with all the old fuel pumped out, everything's still exactly as it was. 21 litres of new fuel in the tank. Now, you would have heard before I had 22 in there. At least 1 litre ended up on the floor. I'm going to try to put it in. I'm just going to make that pump kick in again for a few seconds. That'll do it. And that's just to force the old fuel out and mix it, anything that was left in the lines. Now we'll reinstate the relay and kick her in the guts. Okay, she should, in theory, start despite the spider webs. Now I'll be keeping an eye on my oil pressure over there too, make sure it builds it. Okay, try a little bit of throttle. Hang on. Let's give it 12 volts. There we go. Oh. Nearly. That's what happens when you don't start it for a few months. And oil pressure building. Yep. Oil pressure 80 psi. Ticker noise disappeared within a few seconds. Few spider webs. We have power. I hope I was filming when I started it, not the other way around. But it's running. Gonna let it warm up, get up to temperature, fresh fuel in it, and maybe drive it around the backyard. But yeah, importantly, I need to get all this other shit on there, but need to make sure it's running right first. So get it up to temp, recheck all the fluids, and get ready to start putting the front bar and splitter assembly back on the car. If I get time, I might even put the passenger seat in, and I might be able to take a passenger or two out. Who knows? Now, it's always important to remember when bedding an engine in, which technically I'm still doing with this, because I haven't taken it back for the final tune. I've just had the shakedown on the skid pan, which went fine, found that injector problem. But yeah, you don't want it sitting on the same revs all the time. So you're not idling too long. She's a bit dirty. Perfect. So while the outside might be dirty, the inside of the engine's definitely clean now. Plugs are cleared. So back in the shed, to mount the intercooler slash splitter bracket, there's a rev cert that's been pulled out. I've just given this a test run, and that's how they work. They get squashed inside the hole and expand into it on those knurlings, and ideally don't come out. So I'm going to put a new one in now and see if we can get this thing mounted. Okay, which hole is it again? That one there. Might take the intercooler out to do this. That's frustrating. Hole seems awfully big for that riv nut. Wouldn't be surprised if that's why it came out. Let me have a play. So I've just loosened the intercooler mounts, undone these, and hopefully that's bought me enough room to get my gun in here. Yeah boy. Now basically I'm going to squeeze this over and over again and do it up. I need two hands until that grommet stays in there, at which point I can mount my bracket. So I'll show you, but I can't hold everything at the same time. So that hole is most definitely too big for the M6 one that's in here. This is an M8 one. The hole is too small. So this just became a tomorrow job. I'll pop the pipes back on the intercooler so nothing crawls in there. And on a scale of oily to not oily at all, I have 0 oil in my intercooler, which is also a good sign. Yeah, annoying, but you can see there's no shadows left in my yard because it's all shadow, which means the temperature's about to drop and I'm getting hungry for a beer. So I'm going to go have a beer and think about drilling this hole out tomorrow to take this and this bolt, and also drilling out the bracket for the bigger bolt, and we'll get her in. So effectively the intercooler mounts on this hole here, and the splitter mounts on that one, that riv nut down there, which is in line with that one, and there's a couple of mounts further back. But yeah, that's how it goes. And that's me for the day, but I'm glad, look, she's running, she's got clean fuel in her. I could just mount the front bar without that and be done with it, but I think I've got time tomorrow, so I'll drill the bracket out, mount that bracket, mount the bar, mount the splitter, which should be right here next to this R33 subframe, and then yeah, wash it, check fluids, go racing. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow.